In today's video, I will be discussing the controversial question: are serial killers born or made? One fun fact about me is that I am obsessed with true crime. Like, really obsessed. And for as long as I have been fascinated with true crime, I have always wondered, are serial killers born with the desire to kill, or are they turned into killers? I believe I may have finally found the answer by looking at case studies such as Aileen Wuornos, and by finding evidence to support that there is no such thing as a serial killer gene. For our first case study, I have decided upon the infamous Milwaukee cannibal, Jeffrey Dahmer. Dahmer is a prime example of how family dysfunction can cause a monster. As a child, his mother, Joyce Dahmer, was severely depressed and was addicted to antidepressant medicines. His father, Lionel Dahmer, was absent a large majority of the time due to his demanding job as a chemist. With his parents struggling to provide adequate care for the children, Jeffrey felt the need to compete with his brother for the love and affection that should have been provided. Later in life, Dahmer's parents divorced, which left him without the emotional support he was longing for. When asked why he killed, Dahmer stated he did not want his victim to leave him alone. Psychologist Park Elliott Dietz would later diagnose Dahmer with borderline personality disorder due to his reason for killing. Dietz would also state that the main cause of his mental disorder was a dysfunctional home life. For the next case study, I have chosen Aileen Wuornos. Robert Ressler, a FBI profiler who interviewed 36 convicted murderers in the 1980s, reported that over 40% of the killers he had interviewed had been physically beaten multiple times as a child, and 70% claimed to have seen or been forced to participate in sexually stressful events as a developing child. Aileen Wuornos, convicted of murdering 7 men, had a tumultuous childhood. As a young girl, Wuornos was raised by her grandparents. However, her grandmother was an alleged alcoholic, and her grandfather was sexually abusive towards Wuornos. In her teen years, she was forced to have sexual relations with her brother. Aileen claimed that these acts of sexual abuse would later lead her to kill men whom had made sexual advancements on her. For our final case study, I will be covering Richard Ramirez, specifically his head trauma. At 2 years old, he was left to his own devices, and a dresser fell on top of him, knocking him unconscious. When Ramirez was 5 years old, a swing at the park knocked him out, and he had to be treated with intense medical attention. Doctors say that these traumatic neurological injuries would cause him to have temporal lobe epilepsy. Doctors also believe that not only did the impacts create epilepsy, but they also had left Ramirez with intense aggressive episodes and compulsive sexual disorder. In addition, it is hypothesized that his aggression and hypersexual acts were amplified due to the temporal lobe epilepsy. Although there is extensive research proving serial killers are created, there is still a resounding percentage of people whom account these murderous actions to genetics. The gene monoamine oxidase A, or the serial killer gene, is commonly found when genetic testing is done on serial killers, and is an enzyme that deconstructs neurotransmitters necessary to create dopamine and serotonin. However, statistics show that only 5 to 10% of violent crime is due to this gene, whereas it is estimated that 1/3 of the United States population carries this gene in low activity form. These statistics are not comparable due to the fact that there is less than 1% of the U.S. population that are classified as serial killers. Therefore, the serial killer gene is merely harmless due to only being carried by few people and because it is most commonly found in low activity form. In conclusion, there are grand examples of serial killers being created due to childhood trauma from family dysfunction, abuse, and traumatic head injuries. In comparison, the theory that serial killers are born with a murderous gene is rather shortcoming. Overall, America's most prolific serial killers have been created due to a lack of emotional support, quantifiable amounts of abuse, and harsh impacts on the neurological system. I hope that you have enjoyed this video and gained some interesting knowledge. Thank you for watching.